Hey guys, I got an update for my little platformer game here. Two things that I've implemented and one thing that's bad. The first thing that I've implemented is these moving platforms. At the end of the last video I was speaking about how there was a problem where when they moved around the character had the potential to fall through them, and so I researched some different strategies, and basically the two competing strategies are one, you just child your object to your platform when you interact with it, and that way you get however it moves per frame. Your character moves by default while you're a child of that object. The drawbacks of that are supposedly that other things that affect your transform, like your scale, can affect your character, and supposedly this if this platform is stretched out, in the X, maybe your character is stretched out in the X and you don't like that, or your rotation. I'm not seeing that problem, so I had a real simple childing process, and it works pretty well. So there, I'm not doing any more input, and I've become a child of this platform. And how that actually occurs is this platform has a little trigger box that's slightly smaller but slightly above the main platform collision geometry, and that way whenever I get an on-trigger enter for that, I just become the child of the other object, and then when I leave, I unchild. That way I don't keep on moving the amount that the platform moves, and that works pretty slick. So with that done, and me very happy with that, I was thinking the next enemy I'd like to implement is some kind of bullet bill, a guy that gets shot out of a cannon and you ride him along and then kill him or not, or he can kill you. And this is pretty much all this is, right? All I gotta do is make it so I actually had a second, or rather the platform part was very, very skinny, like as skinny as this, and then the main bulk of it was a secondary collision box, and basically if you got touched by the big collision box, you died, and if you landed on the top of the other collision box, you survived, and that was easy, and that was working until I realized that that's pretty much this, and waiting for a bullet bill to hit you looks like this, where the character is not dying and the thing is just moving straight through you. The problem with that is the same problem that I experienced with the little red guys down there before, was that if you're not moving your character and things move into you, you don't get any on-character controller hit events, and they don't get any on-collision because you're not using a rigid body, and they don't get any on-trigger because they're not a trigger. There's no such thing. So there's no on-box collider, got collided with event. So and I solved that problem by giving each little red guy a character controller like my player. And so I didn't really want to do that, but I think that's the way I had to do it, and so I did end up implementing a bullet bill that ended up being a box with a character controller, with a little box on top, with a trigger area on top of that little box, and I've actually got that working. I'll enable it right now. And so we see a little cannon, he fires up, gonna get on top of it, and there's a bullet bill, and as you can see the little platform is still visible. I could disable its mesh renderer, and so I'm also not childing myself to this platform like I was to there, because to my surprise it doesn't work nearly as well. I thought it would have just by default, but it didn't, and I'm suspecting the problem is because there'd be two character controllers in the hierarchy for that object, and the game pretty much doesn't know what to do. It was a strange problem, so I decided to use it as an exercise to implement the second solution to the whole moving platforms problem, which is basically just to keep track of the offset of your moving enemy and apply it to your character manually, basically what childing would do, but do it manually yourself. And that's the implementation that you see there, and it works pretty well. So this way, if I restart myself here, if I restart, unlike the moving platforms, I will get killed when these guys run into me, which is what we saw happen there. I'm just going to do it again. And so that's all it covers all the bases. I can land on him, I can move with him with the second implementation of the moving platform stuff, and they can kill me when they run into me thanks to having their own character controllers. So basically they're conglomerate of the little red guys plus the moving platforms all in one very complicated little prefab. So that gets me to the bad thing, and see here, I don't know if you can tell the FPS right now, when there were no bullet bills in the scene, it was running at 60, 58 FPS, something like that, something that I'd expect. But as soon as more than a few of these guys spawn, the FPS starts to take a hit in a hurry, and I'm not really sure of what I can do. My scripts are using a lot of send message stuff, but not, we just dropped down to 27, so there's some overhead with send message, I know, and I'm trying to eliminate some of those calls, but I think overall it's just having more character controller standard prefabs or whatever, or components in the scene at one time, because that seems to be the main difference between them and all of their moving platforms and whatnot. So I'm going to have to come up with some way to either just artificially limit the number of bullet bills in a scene, or do some high level optimization to them, because right now this is barely playable. I mean, it's really not playable at this point, and I've only got 5 of these guys, and they are dying when they hit this wall. It's not like I got a bunch of them off screen somewhere. So that is the downfall. So good news, bullet bills worked, and they can do pretty much everything I ever want them to. Bad news is they're not very usable. That's my update.